Gun fam, buckle up. Today we're blasting through the 10 revolver rounds that hit harder, dig deeper, and flat out stop threats faster than anything else on the shelf. From snubby-friendly 30s to wrist-wrecking 5s, one cartridge on this list unleashes a 700-grain sledgehammer you have to see to believe. Smash that like button, subscribe, ring the bell, and let's kick it off with number 10. Number 10, Federal Punch 38 Special plus P 120 grain, jacketed hollow point. The punchline lives up to its name. A nickel-plated case, skived jacket, and deep cavity let this mild recoiling round punch 12 inches through gel, even from stub-nose barrels. Federal optimized the softer lead core for rapid upset so you get Magnum-like trauma without Magnum recoil. Street tests show through and throughs on intermediate barriers, yet textbook expansion in tissue simulants. If you carry an airweight, this is a fight stopper you won't hate practicing with. Low flash propellant keeps your night vision intact, while the slick plating shrugs off sweat and pocket lint. Because the bullet is seated long to maximize powder space, pressure stays plus P but manageable, translating to sub 4-inch groups at 7 yards in real-world snubs. In independent chronograph tests, the 120 grain punch averaged nearly 950 feet per second from a 2-inch barrel, retaining over 240 feet-pounds of energy, numbers that close the gap between 38 Special and 37.5 Magnum without bruising your palm. Pros: designed for short barrels, consistent 12 to 14-inch penetration, low flash for night use. Cons: not bonded, pedals can shear on auto glass. Slightly slower than Hydra Shock technology or Gold Dot, pricey for 38 Special practice. Number 9. Hornady Critical Defense 38 Special Plus P Flex Tip E-expanding 110 grain. Hornady's patented Flex Tip plugs the hollow point with a pliant red polymer, preventing heavy clothing clog and guaranteeing violent, uniform expansion even after 4 layers of denim. In gel tests, the 110 grain critical defense load leaves a 2-inch snub nose at roughly 1,000 feet per second, penetrates 13 to 15 inches, and mushrooms to a bruising 0.55-inch diameter. Nickel-plated brass resists pocket perspiration, chambers smoother, and flashes brightly for quick chamber checks in low light. A proprietary low-flash propellant keeps night vision intact, while also trimming recoil impulse so rapid follow-ups stay on target. Because the bullet's ogive feeds like a wad cutter, yet flies like a semi-jacketed, accuracy remains inside palm-sized groups at 7 yards. Plenty for real-world defensive ranges. Translation: your trusty J-frame just grew razor-sharp fangs without spraining your wrist. When civilian defenders or off-duty cops reach for a proven .38, this classic still dominates the shortlist and is trusted by trainers worldwide. Pros: Flex tip defeats clogging reliable feeding in combo guns. Manageable recoil for rapid follow-ups. Cons: shallow cavity limits penetration on heavy bone. Only 25 round boxes available. Polymer tip can deform in extreme heat. Number 8. Speer Gold Dot Short Barrel 357 Magnum 135 grain Gold Dot hollow point. Speer engineers tweaked the classic Gold Dot specifically for barrels under 3 inches, blending a faster burning powder with a 135 grain bonded core that stays intact beyond 1,200 feet per second. The payoff is 16 inches of calibrated gel travel and a Dutch oven-wide 0.5 2-inch mushroom. Even when fired through leather jackets, laminated windshield glass, or 4 layers of denim. Because the jacket and core are uni-plated in one electrochemical step, there's 0 weight shedding and no jagged petals to snag on ports during extraction. Low flash propellant guards your dark-adapted pupils, while a tuned pressure curve tames recoil so split times mirror duty gun performance. Independent FBI protocol runs record 95+% retained mass after glass and steel shots. A statistic that makes detectives and plainclothes carriers reach for the short barrel load daily. Translation: your pocket-sized snub finally roars like a service revolver, minus the wrist slap and concussion of a full house Magnum that batters eardrums on indoor lines. Professor: bonded core survives barriers tuned for compact revolvers. Federal Bureau of Investigation compliant penetration and expansion. Cons: still loud, needs ear pro on the range street price, often north of $1 per round, limited velocity gains in 6-inch barrels. Number 7. Hornady Critical Duty 357 Mag Flex Lock 135 grain. Think of Critical Duty as critical defense on steroids. Hornady's Flex Lock design combines the polymer flex tip with an interlock band that mechanically anchors the core to the jacket, so the 135 grain slug stays virtually intact even after punching through autoglass or sheet steel. Fired from a 4-inch GP100, it screams past 1,400 feet per second and delivers textbook Federal Bureau of Investigation heavy clothing penetration with an expansion diameter exceeding 0.50 inch. That kind of mass retention and energy transfer creates a wound channel you could drop a quarter through. Nickel-plated brass resists corrosion and aids smooth extraction under stress, while low-flash propellant keeps flash blindness at bay. Whether you're carrying for patrol or personal defense, this round offers barrier-blind performance trusted by federal agencies and revolver-loyal officers alike. It's not just tough, it's built for the real world where glass, metal, and denim don't stop when the shooting starts. Pros: 95% weight retention through steel, optimized for duty-length barrels, flash-suppressed powder cons, snappy recoil and lightweight guns, over-penetration risk in homes with thin walls, hard to find in 50-round LE boxes. Number 6, Winchester PDX-1 Defender 357 Mag Bonded 125 grain jacketed hollow point. Winchester didn't just bond the lead core to the gilding metal jacket. They electrofused it, then bathed the finished bullet in a black nickel wash that shrugs off humidity and slides out of cylinders. Launch a 125 grain PDX-1 Defender from a 6-inch Colt Python, and you're looking at roughly 1,450 feet per second and more than 580 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. In calibrated gelatin, that combo plows 18 inches, blooms to a violent 0.60-inch diameter, and still weighs an honest 124 grains. Virtually perfect mass retention. Winchester's reverse taper jacket forces engineered serrations to peel outward in 6 straight petals, so expansion stays uniform whether the round meets denim, sheetrock, or windshield laminate. Nickel-plated brass resists corrosion, low-flash powders spare your night vision, and sealed primers laugh at monsoon carry. Hunting feral hogs, patrolling lonely county roads, or guarding the homestead, one load covers threats, both 2-legged and 4. When trouble howls, PDX-1 has your 6. Pros: true bonded. Construction nickel plating resists corrosion, proven in Federal Bureau of Investigation protocol tests. Cons: muzzle blast rivals a flashbang. Stiff price tag, limited velocity gains beyond 6-inch barrels. Number 5, Buffalo Bore Heavy 44 Magnum 340 grain plus P plus hardcast. Meet the nuclear option for wheelgun hunters. Buffalo Bore's 44 Magnum 340 grain heavy plus P plus outdoorsman. Its gas-checked, flat-nose hardcast slug screams from an 8 3/8-inch Smith & Wesson Model 29 at a chrono-verified 1,475 feet per second, hammering over 1,600 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. The 21 Brinell alloy refuses to deform, tracks arrow straight, and drills more than 3 feet of calibrated gelatin after shattering heavy bovine femur in independent tests. Translation: penetration that keeps going when expanding bullets quit. Designed for Alaskan guides facing a 1,000-pound coastal brown at breath distance, it also conquers wild hog skulls, moose shoulders, and engine blocks gone rogue. Nickel-plated, roll-crimped starline brass prevents bullet creep, and flash-suppressed powder keeps your retinas functional in twilight timber. Warning: recoil is ferocious. Think 12-gauge slug from one hand, and pressures exceed standard sporting arms and ammunition manufacturers' institute specs. Only true Magna-ported, properly timed N-frames or Ruger Redhawks need apply. Lesser revolvers and timid wrists should politely decline for the sake of longevity alone. Pros: deep penetrating hardcast for dangerous game gas check reduces barrel leading sealed primers for foul weather carry cons. Not safe in all 44 Magnum revolvers, brutal recoil and muzzle flip over penetration in urban defense scenarios. Number 4, Underwood Extreme Penetrator 45 Colt Plus P 225 grain. Lehigh's solid copper Extreme Penetrator profile meets Underwood's Plus P powder charge to push a 225 grain slug to 1,300 feet per second from a 7.5-inch test barrel, translating to nearly 845 feet-pounds of muzzle energy. Instead of blooming like a jacketed hollow point, its 4 helical flutes redirect tissue radially, creating a fluid dynamic virtual wound cavity roughly twice the volume of comparable hollow points while still plowing 30 inches of calibrated gel. Because the monolithic copper core can't shed weight, the projectile stays intact after punching through hide, glass, sheet metal, or shoulder bone, yet it remains 50-state compliant for hunters in non-lead zones. Ranchers love the load for rooting hogs and stubborn coyotes. Home defenders appreciate that it feeds silky smooth in both Taurus Judge cylinders and tube-fed lever guns. With minimal recoil rise and flash-suppressed powder, rapid follow-ups stay on target. Call it the Teddy Roosevelt approved, do-all-round he never got to carry or tuck into his saddlebag. Pros: lead-free. Barrier-blind design, massive permanent and temporary cavities, minimal deformation for deep straight-line penetration. Cons: can exit soft targets, beware backstops. Louder muzzle report than standard 45 Colt, some ranges ban solid copper due to backsplash. Number 3. Hornady Handgun Hunter 454 Cazul Monoflex 200 grain. Hornady's Handgun Hunter load ditches lead entirely, casting a 200 grain Monoflex slug from solid copper alloy and capping it with their signature red elastomer flex tip. Out of an 8.38-inch Taurus Raging Hunter, the round averages 2,000 feet per second. Good for a scorching 1,780 foot-pounds at the muzzle, and still breaks 1,400 feet per second from carbine-length barrels. On impact, the flex tip initiates controlled upset, the pedals peeling back into a near-perfect 0.95-inch rosette, while penetration holds to 16 to 18 inches in calibrated gelatin. Because it's monolithic, the bullet keeps better than 95% of its mass, smashing through moose scapula, hog shields, and grizzly ribs without veering off course. A deep cantilever and roll crimp prevent setback under savage recoil. Nickel-plated cases resist wet backcountry carry, and flash-suppressed powder saves your night vision at dusk. Translation: every ounce of recoil converts to fight-stopping, bear-dropping performance, exactly what a revolver hunter needs when the alders start snapping. Carry 2 speed loaders and breathe easier everywhere. Pros: lead free for states with hunting bans, high velocity flattens trajectory to 100 yards, flex tip guarantees expansion through heavy clothing. Cons: requires 5-shot revolver with stout steel frame, loud concussive blast and short barrels, limited penetration on end-to-end bear shots compared to hard cast. Number 2. Hornady Custom 500S and W Mag 500 grain E-Extreme Terminal Performance, half-pound bullet, half-ton impact. Hornady's 500 grain Extreme Terminal Performance leaves an 8 3/4 inch Model 500 at 1,425 feet per second, hammering more than 2,250 feet-pounds into the target. 6 deep serrations peel the copper jacket into 6 surgical razors, while the thick base remains intact, driving 30 inches of arrow-straight penetration. Field reports credit the load with Cape Buffalo class performance from a sidearm you can holster. A heavy roll crimp stops bullet creep under concussion level recoil, and low flash powder keeps the fireball manageable in low light. Despite muzzle blast that rivals a 12 gauge, accuracy stays under 4 inches at 50 yards, letting hunters thread shots through timber. Nickel-plated Starline brass resists corrosion in damp bear country, and sealed primers shrug off sleet. Recoil is punishing, brace wrists and ears, but when a 1,200-pound grizzly or angry hog barrels in, Extreme Terminal Performance delivers thunder in a tube and the decisive stop you prayed you'd never need, because second chances rarely exist in wilderness. Pros: huge frontal diameter after expansion, accurate thanks to cantilever and premium brass factory sealed primers and case mouth. Cons: $3 thump every pull requires X-frame or equivalent tank grade revolver, not legal for hunting in all states. Number 1, Underwood Hardcast 500S and W Mag 700 grain, wide flat nose. Meet the King Kong of handgun ammo. Underwood's 500S and W Magnum 700 grain, wide flat nose hardcast, plus P plus round. The behemoth slug, hardened to 21 Brunel hardness number, and slicked with a red high-tech lipstick coating, leaves an 8 3/8 inch Smith & Wesson X-frame at 1,200 feet per second, hammering 2,230 feet-pounds into the target with utterly uncompromising straight-line penetration and devastation. Its .400-inch Maplat drills a caliber-width crush cavity for the bullet's entire 4+ foot trek through 10% gelatin, while staying arrow straight through moose shoulders, grizzly skull plates, and even engine blocks. Because the slow burn, temperature-stable powder is tuned for sub-zero backcountry mornings, velocity loss in -20 degrees Celsius blizzards is under 20 feet per second. Standard pressure this is not, recoil top 60 feet-pounds, roughly a 12-gauge slug from one hand, so lighter revolvers need not apply. Guides and bush pilots trust it when a 1-ton bison or coastal brown is already on the skid marks. Fire a single cylinder, and you'll understand why it crowns every deadliest list. Pros: devastating straight-line penetration. Hard cast lead shrugs off bone-coated bullet eases cleanup cons. Recoil borderlines painful, even with porting massive muzzle blast and flashover penetration risk in any populated setting. There you have it, America's 10 deadliest revolver rounds. From pocket-sized punch to the 700-grain hammer of the gods. Which load shocked you most? Drop your pick in the comments. If you learned something new, slam like, hit subscribe, and stay tuned. Next week, we're dissecting the most underrated carry revolvers you've never heard of.